Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another week of the Field Op. It's Baby Friday, or Friday Night's Eve, as I also like to call it. But goddamn, it's almost the weekend. Let me go ahead and turn on my microphone on, so that way my sound is a little better. Forgot to do that before the show. Hey, before we get on started, let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. This show is brought to you, well, by many other things, and although I don't get somewhat sponsored by the VA at all, my show is aired on some of their platforms. I guess you could say I don't make anything out of it, but I am an advocate for the VA in the sense that while it isn't, it has its good its pluses and minuses. It is the one organization that's out there for us. So, excuse me, if you haven't taken the time to initiate your VA claim as a whole, I would highly encourage you to do so, because at the end of you fought for our, in the name of freedom, for our Constitution, in no man's land, in deployments and so on and so forth. That these benefits are yours and they're there. So under the PAC Act, among many other things, there's a lot of your chances of your VA claim, you getting the desired outcome, are much better nowadays without having to show proof under the presumptive conditions. There's another one coming out pretty soon, as I believe it's coming out pretty soon, where it's basically not only for the burn pits, but also for nuclear exposure and so on, and among other things. So take a look at that. And in addition to that, find yourself an advocate like the Disabled American Veterans. That's one of my favorites. The American Legion, who I'm also a member of. I'm a lifetime member of the DAV, and I just became a member of the American Legion, my local chapter here in Hollywood, Florida. So, it's best to, to have an advocate there for you, so that way you don't have to go through these waters in the sense of, where you're trying to do it all alone. You can also hit us up at the show right here. When I say hit us, I mean me. You can hit me up on the show. I can put you in contact, and I can help you too with your VA claim as well. No commitment, no nothing. Just one of the things I love, helping out other fellow veterans, and I've done it in the past. So by all means, check it out. So go ahead and put in for that. In addition to that, hey, look, in this show, we're all about freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. In other words, because us veterans as a whole, we defended our great American Constitution in every time and place, as we used to say in the Marine Corps. So go ahead and, if you like what you hear, fantastic. Support my show, like, subscribe, and follow. Tell everybody all about it, because this is a community where we share and we exchange information, and sometimes we agree to disagree, and that's okay as well. So go ahead and let everybody else know. And if I'm looking for people to be guests on the show, so if you have a story to tell, if you have a business that you want to talk about, by all means, use my show as a platform, and let's help each other out. I get there's no charge, no nothing. I just want to share this information with other fellow veterans. And I also want to give a big shout out to everybody who's currently watching the show live right now, and also shout out to all my favorite my faithful listeners who have been listening to the show since almost inception. Like, you know who they are, you know who you are. I always give you shout outs. So by all means, hey, thanks for tuning in. So I think that's all the pleasantries out of the way. So let's go ahead and kick on the show. So what I wanted to talk about today is basically barriers to accomplishments. And because I like to talk about them, a lot of times when I do these type of shows, kind of like a motivating, hoorah, bark, bark, woof, woof, get some, where I'm trying to motivate you. I'm pointing the fingers right back at myself, because every once in a while we need to hear this. So I'm not impervious to having my moments of like, man, it's been a rough month or a rough couple of weeks, whatever the case may be. But I want to talk about some barriers to accomplishments. We tend to get distracted, just like in the show description, or we get sidetracked, or we allow ourselves to get sidetracked instead of being focused on the target. And that could be, and you can apply this to pretty much to life. You can apply this to relationships. You want to exercise, lose weight, learn a new skill, switching careers, whatever the case may be. I mean, we often get sidetracked, and things happen. You know what I'm saying? So, like for example, I don't know. I'm in business for myself. I help out people with their finances, in addition to short-term, long-term goals, protecting what they have, and among many other things that the services I provide. I know outside of being doing this show and providing this information to you folks. But I do get sidetracked. I found myself a little bit getting sidetracked by social media sometimes, and even if it's just for a couple of minutes, that little minute or so. I mean, if you do, we talk about when I do my when I do a lot of my presentations, when I'm speaking with clients, I talk about compound interest and the rule of 72. So compound interest being that the more rate of return, the less the time that money will take to double. If you want to find out more, please by all means DM me on the show, and I'll be more than glad. The point being is that as I'm trying to accomplish things in between client calls, and I'm mainly studying for another license to be able to not only do more assets under management. I'm also so I can manage people who are already licensed in the industry, securities license, right? So, but in between here and there, if I hear a text, if I hear the phone buzz, I've already been so conditioned by these machines where I hear that bzz, and I'm like, I gotta check it out. It's like, oh, okay, it's a text message. And if it's something where I should just be focused on that one task, I find myself, let me answer this quick text message back. Let me reply back right quickly. Whereas I should just block out the time to study for this exam, for example. So, what are some more, I gotta find intrinsic ways to motivate myself, or even with you as a whole. If you're a manager, if you're a leader, or whatever the case may be, what are some intrinsic ways that you can motivate not only yourself, but also your your teammates? So things that I started doing, and by the way, I just want to give a huge shout out to my doctor Mike. He is my therapist, who I was talking about this, and he kind of gave me the idea for the show. So he said, hey, look, you got to ask yourself, can I do it? Will it work? And is it worth it? So, can I study for a couple of hours? Yeah, of course I can. I can do that. Will it work? Yeah, of course. If I study, or if I concentrate on making phone calls for whatever, I will achieve that goal, right? And is it worth it? Yeah, of course. Because one, I know I will pass the test. You can see my little timeline right back here. This is per the course study schedule that I have right here on my wall, so I could keep checking off that I've accomplished one of those tasks, and each one represents a date. So I'm just letting you know. So yeah, or if I make the phone calls that I'm supposed to make, to book clients, because in my line of work, we work out of referrals, and following up, or calling back previous clients or prospects that maybe it wasn't the time then. So obviously it's worth the time, and it's the payoff will be is, one, I'll get more follow-up business, or I may get somebody, I may get a referral from that one individual as well. So obviously I have to, we have to do that self-talk, because that little negative voice will get in your head, and it's like, well, is it worth it? And then you start giving yourself a way out. I just got done reading the book by David Goggins. Fantastic. Can't Hurt Me. I highly recommend that book. If you're not, I recommend the audiobook on Audible. Go check it out. It's well worth it, because it's a book. They'll read the book, but it's kind of like a podcast in between. And being a fellow, a podcaster myself, amazing book, amazing story. And I know there's some people that might not like the dude. I get it, whatever. I mean, not all of us are gonna get along or like each other. However, I mean, the dude does say some things that that little voice in our heads can work as a double-edged sword. It can motivate us, and it can also hurt us. And that voice will give us that excuse of, hey, well, why are you doing this? Why are you killing yourself? This is too much. Why don't you just go watch another episode of Tulsa King, or another episode of your favorite anime, whatever the case may be. That little voice will give you that way out, and pretty soon you're right there on the couch, freaking binging, watching something that you shouldn't be, when you should be, hey, the task at hand. What's up, Angel? Shout out to you, lady. Thank you for your support. So we give ourselves, it'll give us that way out. So so usually it's because I'm in doubt. So you got to ask yourself, hey, where am I in doubt internally? Hey, why am I doubting myself, or why am I doing this, right? So I have, because it's not external. 9 times out of 10, this is all this is internal. So you got to be able. What's up, Karenson? Thanks so much for supporting the show, and everybody else who's watching live right now. So you have to ask yourself, hey, why am I being sidetracked? Why am I avoiding the do, right? You guys have heard me talk about this on other shows. Hey, why am I avoiding the do? And instead of just BSing and just, like we say in Spanish, like we say in Spanish, comiendo mierda, we're eating shit, basically, right? Why am I goofing off, and not doing what I'm supposed? Why am I, just getting, zapped away by TikTok and everything else, right? So, or if you're trying to lead a team, find out what are their barriers, and basically help them overcome those barriers. Maybe you have to write yourself a plan, like, hey, you get up early from this time to this time, you're going to silence your phone. And, your task is to obviously focus on studying for your exam. Or, from this time to this time, your time is to make calls, follow up with clients, whatever the case may be, right? Because oftentimes we tend to end up finding the wrong foe. Like, oh, well, let me just, I saw a couple of emails, and next thing you know, instead of just doing the do, you start, answering emails and texts and whatever the case may be. So you get sidetracked, and then doing this whole other bunch of trash, when again you missed out on an opportunity to get yours and do the do. So because, in other words, we get focused on the wrong thing to avoid what needs to be done. So I'm not only talking to you. Again, I'm also talking to me. So oftentimes it's just that pull from social media, Facebook. Oh, let me put this quick post, or let me reply to this group, or whatever. So we gotta stay focused. So one thing that I did in the past, which I can't, or maybe I can't. I don't know. I have removed from my phone completely social media, all my social media platforms. I removed them from my phone, and that helped me out a lot as I was getting licensed in this industry and building my business platform. So I had them all on my iPad, and I had separated the two. Where, hey, that room over there is strictly for if I'm gonna relax and look at social media, I'm in another bedroom, not in here because, or in my living room because this is my office slash guest bedroom. This is where I do work. So I had to separate the two. However, as you can see, I'm now doing the show from my phone because obviously the camera is a lot better. So I think that's I think I'm just bullshitting on this one. I think that's an excuse, but I have to again own it myself, and that way find other ways to get creative. So what is it? Am I baking or am I cooking? So because life is, at the end of the day, life is a combination of baking and cooking, and that this also includes cleaning up. So let me clarify. So I got to define the two, right? So with baking, you got to follow a recipe, right? There's certain period of instructions. If I'm studying, I got to follow. If I'm studying for an exam, I got to follow a certain course outline, a structured course outline in order to pass my exam, get and the reward. And so do the hard work, and the payoff is I'm prepared. I'm gonna go to execute, do the exam, hoorah, bark, bark, woof, woof, get some high fives, I pass. And now I'm licensed and I can do a lot more and help out my clients, as well as anybody that may have any questions. By the way, wink, wink to you. I can. That's the payoff, right? Or am I cooking, right? Cooking is kind of like an evolving flow process, and you can make adjustments along the way. So, especially, I know a lot of us out there on that are watching the show. I'm not a good cook. I gotta follow a recipe. But hey, just humor me for just a second. When I cook, I don't really follow the recipe. I'm more of I'll read, okay, this is how you do it, and I'll sprinkle a little bit of this. Cooking has always been a hobby of mine, so I just kind of free flow, like, hey, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, taste, okay, this is great. I'm gonna throw a little bit of paprika, maybe a little sazon Goya, because I'm Latin, and in my opinion, you're not a truly Latin if you don't use Goya for just about everything, right? am I right? Am I right? Any Latinos in the house? So we use a lot. I use a lot of Goya, right? My kids once told me, like, man, you should do commercials for them. But nonetheless, so the point I'm trying to make is that you kind of get, you can get a little bit of this. It's more free range. So so if I'm gonna do something, basically, I gotta ask myself, hey, am I cooking or am I baking? Because if I'm gonna cook, then that's why you could you have a little bit more free range to do whatever, because you're not really on task or whatever the case may be. Whereas, hey, if I'm gonna bake, I gotta follow this T, unless you're a professional baker. Okay, so just humor me on this, right? So if I'm gonna bake, if I'm gonna do something, hey, I gotta stay focused. I gotta follow the period of instructions, follow the course outline, follow the structure way of calling my clients. You know what I'm saying? Because if not, if I don't bake it right, it's gonna come out tasting horrible, right? And I'm sure we've all screwed the pooch one time or another when we try to bake something. Trust me, my favorite thing is again, I love to cook. It's a hobby. However, baking is not my forte. I love apple pie, so much so that I learned how to bake it. And let me tell you, the first few versions of that were not. I think I ate a portion of it just out of principle. But those of you who've been to a mess night in the military, hey, this food is not fit for human consumption. But I try to power through it just out of, hey, I baked it, I'm gonna eat it, hoorah, get some, right? Didn't work out too well, but obviously now I can make a pie. I follow the instructions. But yep, rest in peace, apple pie. Not right. But so you gotta define your task and what you're gonna do, because you gotta ask yourself, hey, what am I doing right now? Am I baking or am I cooking? So you gotta commit the real time on your on the calendar, whatever it is, without excuses. And you gotta use. I always go back to what I always say is rely on your support system. And obviously, my support system is my valiant service dog over here, who, by the way, he's cowering over there on this spot, because there's a lot of thunder, and the dude hates thunder. It's a miracle that he's not right here by my legs. Uh, you know, I, or I also use the trophy. My wife, I call her the trophy. For those of you who joined the show, I call my pet name for my wife is my trophy, because she's amazing supporter. And so it's just a joke that her and I have between each other. So, but however, my wife, she's great. She'll just give me that, and she's I told her, hey, look, if you see me not doing the do, please, give nudge me in the right direction. So in her very own very Japanese way, she'll just say, hey babe, how's studying going? And I'm like, oh snap, if I have my phone in my hand, say, hey, how's studying going? And I'm like, I get it. So I go back to doing the do. So you got, again, we're not all perfect. We're all gonna mess up at some point in time. However, you can rely on others. I'm pretty sure there's an app out there or something that will nudge you in the right direction. So if you have any of those, I'm pretty sure that you can turn that stuff off, your notifications and whatever else, which I do already on my phone. The point is that a lot of times when we have all these barriers where we say, well, I don't have time, I can't do this, I can't do that. A lot of the times is that it's all self-inflicted. We make excuses. We don't have any accountability when we point fingers at everything else, where in reality we should be pointing our fingers back to us. So case in point is that ask yourself, hey, when was the last time I gave myself a buy and binge watch a show, a couple of shows, because you didn't do what you were supposed to, right? Or how many times a day do you pick up your phone? Which I get it. It is a fantastic piece of equipment. It's a machine that a lot of us work out of. I work out of my phone a lot of times. If I do Zoom with clients. If I'm on the go, I can actually do presentations just like and things like I'm doing right now with you folks. However, ask yourself, hey, how many times do you pick up that thing, and for how long? Really take the time. And I'm getting this idea from David Goggins, and in his book / podcast, Can't Hurt Me, on Audible. He says, hey, time yourself a day. It's like, how long were you on that phone, and for how long, and what were you doing at the time? And you'll see how much time you really have that you're kind of wasting on the side. So it's a wake up call for me. I'm not gonna lie. I've been. I know I could have been more productive, and you can't. And there's nothing wrong with rewarding yourself. Do the do, reward yourself, move on to the next task, and that's a trick right there that you can implement from Atomic Habits, which you folks have heard me talk about that book here as well on the past on the show. So hey, it's it's called habit stacking. It's the thing that you don't like to do, or that you have somewhat conflict or friction with to get it done. So then your reward is you do the one thing that you like to do. So if you like to social media, watch a YouTube clip, short, whatever, then do the task that you really need to accomplish. And then the reward is, hey, after you do this, I am going to give myself 10 minutes of XYZ. That's your reward. So, hey, after you go run a mile, if you're trying to lose weight, hey, after I go exercise, then I am going to treat myself to play Candy Crush, whatever case may be. Don't think that I was going to say, hey, you can have a pizza, because now that's a double negative. And by the way, for those of you, my folks who know here about being healthy and all that good stuff, is at the end of the day, you could go run 10 miles, but eating a pizza, that does not negate that one. Okay, so you got to do it with health, something healthy and constructive. Okay, so but all in all, at the end of the day is, you got to get a hold. If you have things that you need to accomplish, again, circling back and coming full circle, whether it's you're trying to change industries, you're trying to learn a new skill, a new language, get some licenses, whatever the case, lose weight, exercise, learn a new trade, whatever, fill in the gaps. You got to do the do, and be mindful of where is that your time is going, where in reality you should be focusing on that thing that to get you where you need to be. So a lot of times we tend to be our own friction points and barriers to accomplishing and excelling at what we wanna accomplish. So go out there, crush it, and kill it. Make sure that obviously catch yourself. It's better to at least catch yourself and get back on track than just get zoomed away and then give yourself an out, because the number one thing, and a lot of things that I've said in the past is regret. You don't want to have that regret where, and this has happened to me again. I gotta own it, where you go out there, show up at your test, and then you don't pass because you could have done a lot better at at studying, or you could have excelled at your business or whatever, or other things, because you could have done the do. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a good stopping point. So what we're gonna do over there is, remember, you're gonna ask yourself the question. Let me pick up my show notes, here. But hey, you gotta. Can I do it? Will it work? And is it worth it? And if you can answer all those questions in a positive way, it is worth it. So, think about that for just a second, and throw your comments on the show. Throw your comments on this. I also threw a poll out there. The whole purpose of that poll that I threw a couple of days ago is basically, what is it we want to talk about? It just kind of gives me an idea of how, and getting your input on where is that we things and topics that we want to talk about in our community as veterans and supporters as well. So with that being said, folks, I just want to end the show like I usually do, that if you've been struggling with reminiscing, find yourself going into that dark rabbit hole where you feel like you're not coming out of, reach out to our show, reach out to a buddy. There's plenty of other resources like the VA suicide hotline. TRICARE has another one as well. There's many other things that you can do, because at the end of the day, committing suicide and leaving us with the answers, how is it that we could have helped you, doesn't do you or us any justice, because at the end of the day, you matter. So reach out to me. I'm here. Let me talk you off that ledge and get you the resources that you need. So, all right, folks. With that being said, Aismas, Daisuki, and Dex, baby. I'll see you next week. Yeah, do rock in some. Bye-bye.